Getting a move on here on the right stand. Shifting focus to Pakistan now, where it's a major setback. So, contrary to earlier reports where there were indications that a settlement has been reached between the Pak government and the IMF, where the Pakistan government has agreed to the IMF conditions. Amidst this entire economic meltdown, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government and the IMF have failed to reach an agreement, ladies and gentlemen. The deadlock comes after Pakistan government declined to cut the defense budget by 10 to 20% as committed in the earlier talks. The IMF then rejected Pakistan government's gradual approach proposal to expand taxation tariffs as well as revenue streams, saying everything has to be done upfront. The IMF further added that they can't trust Pakistan's commitments. Big comment there that has come through. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us all these inputs. Now, Pakistan Minister Ishaq Dar has told the mission chief that the Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, is actually in the United Kingdom on an official visit. And they have turned around and said, we need some time to discuss the defense budget with the army chief. That was the turning point where the IMF mission chief stopped the dialogue and decided to leave Pakistan without signing the staff level agreement. This is what sources have claimed while conveying the details to our investigations editor Manoj Gupta here at CNN News 18. The IMF has rejected the gradual approach proposal of Pakistan, saying everything has to be done upfront. According to a source in the finance ministry, everything was going smooth, but the finance minister Ishaq Dar requested IMF mission chief to remove the condition of cut in defense budget. The IMF discussed the draft of the memorandum for economic and financial policies just before the end of the scheduled review talks, leaving no room for the staff level agreement on the same day. Now, due to the severity of the economic crisis, everyone agreed, and every agreed measure will be tough on most Pakistanis. External funding is crucial for the $350 billion Pakistan economy, facing a balance of payments crisis with the country's foreign exchange reserves slipping below $3 billion, $2.9 billion at the moment. For the first time in 9 years, this has happened, and this happened on Thursday, reducing the import capacity to just 10 days. So, now what happens if Pakistan defaults? Step one would be they would be unable to repay commercial loans. That's the first step. Second thing, central bank will turn down debt repayment. Third, downgrading of the nation's credit rating will happen. And then there will be a decrease in dollar inflows, which will limit imports. Step 5, impact on economic output, skyrocketing inflation. So, further trouble. So, where does Pakistan spend its money? How the Pak army runs its ventures under charitable banners. This is another interesting aspect, ladies and gentlemen. Asakari Foundation, Fauji Foundation, Shaheen Foundation, Baharia Foundation. These are all on the surface welfare of service personnel. The real purpose is tax evasion. Ground reality, profits are transferred to retired army generals. And these retired army generals, so far, their pensions were all being shown as civil expenditure or civic expenditure and not part of the defense budget or defense expenditure. This happened at the time of President Musharraf. While Pak army enjoys a luxury lifestyle, it's still the people who have been betrayed. People in Pakistan are finding it difficult to even buy their daily need items, and here is why. The price of a litre of petrol today in Pakistan is 250 rupees, nearly. Diesel is 262 rupees and 80 paisa per litre. Onion is at 235 rupees per kilogram. This is all Pakistani rupees. Tomato, 72 rupees per kilogram. Potato, 250 rupees per kilogram. Lemon, 340 rupees per kilogram. Nimbu, 340 rupees per kilo. Garlic is 480 rupees per kilogram. Ginger, 550 rupees per kilogram. Apple, nearly 1400 rupees per kilogram. Banana is 240 rupees a dozen. Orange, 480 rupees for a dozen. Strawberries are 1000 rupees a kilogram. Pomegranate, 650 rupees per kilogram. Sugar, 97 rupees per kilogram. Wheat, 95 rupees per kilogram. Basmati rice, 464 rupees per kilogram. Chickpea lentils, yani chana dal, is 410 rupees per kilogram. Masoor dal or red lentils, 555 rupees per kilogram. Milk, is 200 rupees per kilogram and tea is 1488 rupees per kilogram. Prices are already skyrocketing. And now we get you more information. CNN News 18's mega exclusive. These are the inside details of the failed IMF-Pak agreement. Once again, our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us these details. The 10-day-long negotiations between IMF and Pakistan resulted in complete failure. Both made no success and no progress on the $1.1 billion immediate funds needed to save the nation from bankruptcy. Sources are telling CNN News 18 that the IMF clearly told Islamabad that 1. The political instability and more than 40% legislative assemblies are not in existence is a problem. Second, economic instability, where the highest inflation has hit Pakistan in the last 47 years, 27% in Jan 2023. Near to empty foreign exchange reserves. It's the election year, where the Election Commission needs billions of Pakistani rupees to arrange local and general elections. Unclear and vague economic policies which change and fail not on monthly but weekly basis. Pakistan needs to impose a mini budget on its taxpayers of 117 billion Pakistani rupees, which could lead to drastic results such as petrol and diesel non-availability. Many sectors of the industry are failing in Pakistan and have ceased to operate. Added burden of this mini budget can be a last nail in the coffin, as it's obvious from past experiences that IMF loan arrangements contribute to increased poverty. Huge problems for Pakistan. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, with us. There is no tinka they want to hold on to. Sushant ji.
Anand, there is nothing left to hold on to. They will have to undertake the reforms which are necessary for their survival. Nothing that the IMF is asking them is something that the IMF has made out of thin air. The IMF has studied their economy and is asking them to do things which even common sense tells you that you have to do those things.
Right.
The IMF is not saying that you don't help the poor. All that the IMF is saying is that if you want to help the poor, please tell us where the money is going to be coming from. Now, if your fiscal situation, if the expenditure is far outstripping your revenue, and I think on your program the other day I told you that the federal government, its entire revenue is consumed only by debt servicing now. So the IMF is saying that you now need to start cutting your costs. And one of the costs, which probably, I don't know, maybe your investigations editor is better informed, but there are rumors that there have been, Pakistan has been asked whether they can start cutting down on defense expenditure.
Yes.
Now you have to cut those expenditures. So you have to do two things. You have to increase your revenue, which means additional taxation, which means reducing subsidies and stuff like that. And then you have to cut down on other expenditures which you are spending on running of the government. And until and unless you do that, your sums are simply not going to match, and you will continue to be caught up in a debt trap. So the IMF is saying, please help the poor. In fact, from whatever has come out in the Pakistani media, the IMF has actually asked them to raise this social welfare program from about 36,000 crores to about 40,000 crores.
40,000
right?
Yeah.
But the money has to come from somewhere. Where is the money going to come from? So I think the IMF is on the right track. The only surprising thing is that unlike the past, the IMF has simply refused to budge. It's dug in its heels.
Yes.
And that is also understandable because the Pakistanis have this proclivity that they'll sign on the dotted line.
Correct.
And then the moment the money comes, then they will blow it up. And they will tell the IMF, I'm very sorry, I could not help it, and now you need to give us more money. So the IMF has seen these games in the past, which is why they are now saying that no graded kind of implementation of these measures which you are supposed to take. They're all front loaded. That means that you have to take those measures before we enter into any agreement with you.
Right.
The time is running out. Even now, for example, it'll take a few days for them to, even if they're going to enter into a deal and Pakistan will agree to everything, it'll take a few days before that agreement is struck. Once the agreement is struck, it has to go to the next level, which is the board level, and then the money will be released. Now, when you are down to about $2.9 billion, and it's probably much lower because this $2.9 billion figure, which was released yesterday, Anand, is of last week.
Correct.
And I'm sure they bought some stuff over the last 7 days, and this figure has gone down. So if you're that precariously placed, and you have another 2-3 weeks to go before the IMF, enters into a deal with you, then you are probably, already running on fumes. So it's really touch and go from here on. And even if the IMF loan comes, it just gives you temporary relief for the next couple of months at best. At best, the next couple of months.
No, fair point. Fair point. But sadly, we are given to understand that the defence budget they refuse to cut. They refuse to cut the defence budget, and that's where Pindi's betrayal of Pakistan stands out. Sushantji, we got ground to cover, so I'm going to request you to stay on. Just